It was just one single drop of salty sweat that dripped down into my eye. And I couldn't tell if it was from the summer heat or from the garbage in the dumpster in the alley as I sat looking over my bedroom windowsill. I took a deep breath. It was just another visual reminder of where I was just 4 months after my 15th birthday. I turned around and soaked in the innocence of my 4-week-old son. I gave him a kiss on his soft skin and put on his diaper. See, we were just getting ready to meet my homeschool tutor for the very first time. See, my grandparents came from the deep South, and although they worked really hard to get into the middle class as entrepreneurs, and my mother was a college graduate, by the time I arrived on the scene, my path started with poverty, violence, and a lot of hopelessness. But for me, my way of getting away was through my imagination. I loved reading and writing. It was a way for me to just get free in my mind and get a sense of freedom, to imagine some type of future. I did so well at it that I was selected to be a part of a gifted writers group. But that lasted for only just 1 year. Because see, due to just one low state standardized test score, I was placed into a remedial reading class. So walking into the class in that basement of my middle school that year dealt me a major blow. It fractured my identity. I began to give up on a lot of things. I began to accept much of what I saw around me. I stopped imagining to the future. Soon I would be expelled from school, branded by the courts as a delinquent minor, and soon thereafter I became a teen mother. So you can imagine how I felt as I sat at the kitchen table that day, cradling my son, looking very skeptically at this new homeschool tutor. I couldn't help but notice that she was a little different. She wasn't like the other adults who, through their lowered expectations, had told me that my life was over. Instead, she smiled at me and told me that it had just begun. You see, she too was a teen mother who had graduated from college and had went on to become a teacher. So then I asked myself, I said, well, what if? What if your future is not over? Will you be blinded by sight, or will you be blinded by vision? And so I went back into myself, into that quiet knowingness that we all have, and I went back into my love for reading and writing, and within just 9 short weeks, I was able to turn all failing grades into all A's. It was the first lesson I learned about the power of identity. See, within you is a quiet knowingness that houses your identity, who you are, that keeps you standing up, and your vision, what you want, that keeps you pulling forward. And these two forces working together helps you uncover your purpose. How do I know? Well, currently I am mother of a 3rd-year college student, and yes, my wallet is as empty as it sounds. Yes. But I'm also living the vision that I had very young of becoming an entrepreneur and an author. And as the owner of a court reporting firm, I've had the pleasure to travel inside many states and many courthouses and many law firms. I've even had the honor of coaching aspiring entrepreneurs with dreams, and I've even humbly accepted a few awards. But my path was not straight-lined. It was zigzagged. And I come here today to answer the question that I'm always asked, and that is, what kept you from giving up? And it's the same thing that will keep you from giving up. It's the power of a vision. See, one of those times that we're all tempted to give up is when you've fallen off of your map, your pre-planned path. I can remember so clearly. I can almost taste the sugar on the top of my tongue from the buttercream frosting as I played around with the image of a graduation cake in my mind. It was a few years after high school. I had it all planned out. That's what we do when we're young, right? I knew that I would graduate from college, go on to be a court reporter, and eventually open a business. I felt so good that I was marking off all my goals. I even had my son in the back seat one day as we're driving down the street with the wind whipping in my hair as we're listening to an old 80s song. You probably know it. McFadden and Whitehead, ain't no stopping us now. We're on the move. And we were on the move. Yep, right on schedule. Until I couldn't move, literally. See, due to the demands of being a single mother, a young mother, and going to school full-time, I had to drop out just 3/4 of the way through college. And sitting on the floor in that apartment one afternoon with the blinds pulled shut, the weight of failure felt like boulders holding me to the ground on my shoulder. I was off my planned path. The images of a dissolving future began to assault my mind as I struggled with the fear that I was failing my son. I had nothing to lift me up. The reason that we call failure failure is simply because what we have planned didn't work out the way we wanted. But what I have learned is that failure often is the birth of a new opportunity and sometimes even leads to new innovation. Which leads me to my second point. The fear that we sometimes have when you have been confronted with the fear of change. See, as I sat at the floor in my apartment that day, the tears streaming down my cheeks, I began to listen to that quiet knowingness within me that we all have. And I suddenly remembered that there was a man who was introducing new technology into court reporting. But I, like many of you, when you hear about technology entering your field, was extremely afraid because everybody had said that technology would be so good that it would eventually replace the very skill that I was going to school to learn. But I had learned at 15 that the popular opinion is not always right. So would I be paralyzed by fear, or would I be motivated by solutions? Would I be blinded by sight, or would I be blinded by vision? And so I got quiet with that quiet knowingness within me. And I walked into the restaurant to have a meeting with the visionary. And as I draped the napkin over my skirt, I began to realize that what I was going to school for was soon going to be a dying art anyway. The new future of court reporting was going to be led by digital court reporters who were skilled in more advanced technology. So I went back home and got quiet with myself again. And although this was not the path that I had planned, I still had a vision, and I thought, well, I can still get there even if I have to get there differently. And so I did. And I'm glad I did, because over the course of the next 15 years, I would develop a career with amazing new opportunities that I could not have planned. So much so that one of those opportunities landed me right inside the same courtroom that I went into as a 13-year-old with a felony. I was there working now. See, this is the power of a vision. And so I ask you, what old place of pain or rejection or smallness could you travel back to as a better person, as a new person, if you would only honor that vision and the power that's inside of it? And if you decide to say yes to that vision, it will bring me to my third point, which we all are tempted to give up. And that is as soon as you step outside of your comfort zone. I can remember it so clearly. It was a few years after the recession, and I had decided to start a business. And everybody thought I was crazy, but see, I was tired of going to work frustrated. Some of you are doing that right now. You're going to work frustrated. You don't like them, and they probably don't like you. That was me. But I soon found out that it wasn't them, it was me. Because that quiet knowingness was not settled. I had a vision to birth. And I would go to bed every day, and I wasn't settled at all. So I decided to take the leap. And I did, and just a few weeks after I did, I suddenly felt comfortable because I had a new client, major client that I could depend on, until I got the call. Elegra, we're going to have to cancel the contract. As I hung up the phone, I sank down in my chair. I felt like my guts were coming out. I had stepped out to the fear of the unknown, and This was every new entrepreneur's worst nightmare, but it was coming true for me so soon. I spent a couple of days paralyzed by fear, not knowing what's behind me, aside, or even in front of me. But one day I decided to remember what I learned at 15. Either you're going to be blinded by sight, or you're going to be blinded by vision. And I still had my vision, even though I didn't know how I was going to get there. So I followed the path of peace, which didn't make any logical sense, but it was a path of peace. And so I kept going. Day after day, I would wake up. Some day my vision was so clear. Other days I had to fight for it. But I woke up every day. I did cold calls, marketing, knocking on doors, doors slamming, doors opening. I seek mentorship, and within just a few weeks, I got the call from a company that desperately wanted to do business with my company and would in fact be a major client of mine for the next several years. This is the power of vision. See, life did not have to convince me anymore that I could trust myself, that I can trust that quiet knowingness within me that houses my identity, who I am, and my vision, what I really want. Even if I don't have all of it together, I can still trust that quiet knowingness to lead me. And if it worked for me, it will work for you. You can trust yourself. It doesn't matter if your path is zigzag or if your path is a straight line. You still have a purpose. There's nothing about me when I was 15 standing in that windowsill that would suggest that I would be standing here with you today telling you about my journey. But all I had was fragments of a vision that worked together to form my path. You have a purpose. You are meant to be here. You could have been born at any other time in history, but you were born right now, which means there is something for you to be doing. There is someone, somewhere that needs something from you. And they're just waiting on you in your future for you to get over your fear or that odd. And we all have the odds, right? It's the I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't have the right color, the right gender, I don't have enough money. That's an odd, which is just really an illusion. Vision will help you power through that if you only listen to that quiet knowingness to guide you. The path that I've taken has opened me up to many opportunities, and it will for you too. People in your future need you. The very thing that is keeping you from moving forward, once you power through that, you'll be able to go back and help other people. As I've shared my story and have helped other aspiring dreamers who are just stuck. And so if I had one request, it would be in my takeaway tonight for you. And that is to get quiet tomorrow morning and find out who you are. And what is it that you really, really want? Shakespeare once said, "To thine own self be true." And he wasn't lying. The degree to which you get past that odd is going to be directly related to the degree in which you honor your truth inside of you. So get quiet with yourself. Believe in your vision. Because in this life, I've learned that you only really have two answers to questions, two questions that you have to answer. And when life changes and you've fallen off your planned path, the question becomes, will you be blinded by sight, or will you be blinded